Hey, Virginia. At 8:30, the crazy religious nuts from down the road showed up for another meal. They done come and drug me down there at 3 o'clock this afternoon to eat lunch with them. Now at 8:30, they come and got me again and try to tell them something I got to do that I want to do at 9 o'clock. No, I just now walk in through the door because they want to talk to me about the light poles they got and how much copper they stripped off of it that they can resell, and somebody's going to sell it for him. I'm like, you're fixing to get ripped off because dude's going to split that copper into two different piles, and he's going to sell one and get the money, and then he's going to sell the other one and give you the money, and you're going to get shorted. And then they're wanting to cut them up in the fence post. At first, they were going to make a log house out of them. I'm like, yeah, do that. I worked on power lines. Those things cause cancer. Take it as your own warning right there. You can't have that as your walls because you're going to die from cancer in 5 years. So then they come up with the bright idea of cutting them into fence posts. And I'm like, well, the top of the post is what I want, but nobody else wants those because they've already got holes bored in them. Well, we're going to measure them from the bottom and then cut up to the top. And I'm like, no, you don't do it that way. The bottom is bigger, it's more weight. Folks don't want to pick that up no matter if it's 10 foot long or not. And at 10 foot long, you can get $15 a piece out of them. Hey, James, so and I'm telling them, you cut from the top down. You cut off 7 foot from the top. That way you get past all the bad parts on it. And that's the part that I want for my fence post because I don't mind going out and working on them and replacing one every now and then. And well, if we go from the bottom, we get more. And I'm like, yeah, but you're missing my point. The weight is what these people have got to work with whenever they go to set these fence posts in the ground. And that last foot is an extra 10, 15 pounds that they've got to pick up and move around. They don't want the weight. They just want the size and the bulk for a corner post. I gave up on doing homework. Hey, Beach family. Didn't you put out a video today? No, I know I watched the one yesterday where you cleaned out the flower bed. But I want to see if my new subscribers show up again tonight. Hey, Elizabeth. Oh yeah, I got a fly swat for him. Jim, how you doing, buddy? Yeah, you guys missed a good time last night. Me and Elizabeth, boy, we were batting them out of the chat left and right. Got bombarded by trolls. It was kind of fun. I've never had trolls. I felt like I've actually accomplished something in life. But yeah, my crazy religious neighbors, they thought that I should stay down there and just chat and chat and chat with them over a bunch of light poles. They think they're going to wind up with 161 of them, but they're not. Well, all the good ones get a wrench. I'm sure James is going to get a wrench for long. He seems like a pretty good fella. Weren't no wrenches handed out last night, that's for sure. Fly swats were handed out, and we went to swatting. They're still on my sub list. They ain't watched no videos or nothing. I'm just waiting on them to show up tonight, or YouTube will take them out. So I figure YouTube's probably gonna take them out for long. Yeah, you were talking about that. I want to see that one of those good old fashioned ones, or really not old fashioned, one made to last. We almost made it to 60 here today. We were right at 57. And this should be the last chilly night or next couple nights. I think he said it was a Troy built. But we have a saying in the South, you don't really plant your garden until the pecan trees bud, and there's always the last frost before Easter. And Easter's coming up, so being chilly today, and I didn't really wasn't in the mood to do anything other than fiddle with the animals. I got to get out there and get ready for planting because by Easter I can have all of mine in the ground. If I've got the money, I can buy some tomato plants because growing them from seed is good and it does save you money. But I'm not like everybody else. Grow a whole bunch of them in a in a little hot house and sprout my own. I mean, it's easier for me to go spend $5 and get 50 tomato plants already 8-10 inches tall, ready to go in the ground, than it is for me to spend $5 on seed and $15 on soil and you know pots and all that. Even though I do reuse them, I use those for specialty things that's hard for me to find. You know, seeds that I've just run across and I want to sprout out and make sure I got a good stand. Other than that, I don't do a whole lot of buying them, and I don't start seeds because it's too easy for me to get 100 peppers in a bundle for $5, or 50 tomato plants for $5, or 50 sweet potato plants for $5 or $6. So, but I do sprout my own sweet potatoes if I can keep my goats from eating them. They get up 4 or 5 inches, and then the goats come along and nip them, or either knock the blame pot over. But the goats ain't got out in a couple of days. I finally got them contained. All right, Beach. We'll see you in a little bit. No, I just plant the whole sweet potato. I just lay it on its side. The end that's supposed to sprout sprouts them out, and the end that's supposed to have roots puts roots down. And one or two sweet potatoes, I can get a couple hundred slips. My dad plants probably 4 or 5 50-foot rows off of maybe 4 sweet potatoes that he saves for seed. And we don't do the sprout them in water method neither, because we're like Danny from Deep South Homestead. That's a sin. Them things didn't grow in water, so why root them in water? Plus, whenever you go to transplant them, you ain't got nothing but water roots, and that sets your plant back because it gives it a little bit of a shock, and it's got to develop that. So if you plant them in the ground and you pull off the slips, what roots are attached are actually soil roots, and they're used to being in the soil. Makes for a healthier, quicker recovering plant. And I've been watching the Pharmacy Seeds Network, and the guy is very, very smart. He knows his biology, and he's watched a lot of, learned a lot of it off of YouTube. But he's one of them organic thumpers. Everything's got to be organic, and he's all about foliar feeds and micronutrients and da 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 da. And it's like, Bo, I don't care how much science you got. I've got 15 college level biologies under my belt, and I still don't have my degree in biology, but I've got a degree in chemistry, and I've got a degree in history, and I know how they used to do it and how they're going to this no-till organic crap today, and that's not going to feed the world either. There's a balance. The good Lord gave us the ability to use chemicals, but we should use them wisely, not overuse them and not use them where you shouldn't be using them. They're there for a reason, but they're not there for any reason. It's specific. Well, my goal was to get my master's in history and teach college level history. I wanted to get my master's in historical agriculture. And I see one of my old friends just messaged me on Messenger, and I know exactly what she wants, and she's not going to get it because she wants to know whether or not I got my prescription filled for my pain medication because she's got ovarian cysts and can't afford to have the surgery to have them removed. And I felt sorry for her long enough, and I've given her 10 or 15 over the course of a year, and it's like, nah, I ain't doing that no more. You're a good friend of mine. We're close, but you don't want to date me because your mom hates me, but your mom hates everybody that you date anyway. I ain't dealing with it, and I ain't getting involved in the drama, and I'm not sharing my pain meds with nobody because for one, it's illegal, and for two, I need them, or else I wouldn't have them. And three, if I share with you and I run out, and then I've got a job to do that's going to hurt, I'm screwed, and I ain't putting myself in that position. Man, that is a good price. I wish I could find one for that. But yeah, I thought about being a teacher because I've managed restaurants for 25 years, and basically all I've been is a teacher and an overpaid babysitter. But I'm waiting to see how Georgia does their medical marijuana laws because a couple years ago they legalized medical marijuana. They just didn't legalize the ability to go and get medical marijuana from anywhere in the state. So now they're making it to where they're passing a law to open up dispensaries. And I want to find out what it's going to take for me to get a license to grow this stuff for the dispensaries. And if that happens, then Morgan don't need his own prescriptions for anxiety or pain or nothing because the cannabinoid, the CBD oil will do for the pain, and the THC will do for the anxiety, and I'm covered. Plus, it'll lower my blood pressure, and then I don't have to take that pill either. I love when you get to an auction and they do the whole thing in a bulk. But down here where I am, everybody wants to go through it one thing at a time and auction everything off. And I don't like that. Oh, wow, it's already 49 degrees. Yeah, but I figured I would do another live tonight to see if the trolls came back. I mean, I wound up getting 8 or 9 subs out of it. Yeah, Beach family, I'm probably the closest one to you, and I'm 3 states away, or 2 states. Well, you got to go through Alabama to get to where you are, because I'm in Georgia. I'm a hour and a half from Savannah, Georgia, and an hour and a half from Jacksonville, Florida. So I'm on the Atlantic, you're on the Gulf. But I tried to make it on time tonight. Just the neighbors were being too neighborly. Which I kind of figured it was going to be the day for him since I didn't see him Sunday and I didn't see him yesterday. And sure enough, seen him 3 times today. So it wouldn't have done me any good to go do anything in the yard anyhow because I'd have been visible and they'd have stopped more often. No, not yet. But I do need to get with him about that shovel. Or if he does like I asked him to and cut those poles the way I told him to and let me have the pole tops, we'll call it even on the shovel. Because I'd rather spend $10 on a shovel and get 15 or 20 light pole tops to make fence posts out of. Or I can go spend $10 or $15 since my shovel was actually a good shovel and just buy me a new handle. That might be what I do because my shovel it wasn't a $10 when you get at Walmart. It was actually a good one. But the girl who just messaged me, she's got a storage unit or a storage shed out here. She's turning it into a tiny house and is trying to sell. And she had a shovel, so her shovel's going to get confiscated, along with the few untreated 2x4s that I've got stored. They're liable to get confiscated too. Because if I got a little project come up and I need a 2x4, don't think I ain't going to grab one. But that little church down the road, I told them I'd like to have about maybe 6 intact light poles. They're all about 40 foot long. Because I'd like to put up a couple more pole barns and rebuild one. But they're going to want the money for it for the church. Dude, I'm the one that showed you how to set up a limited liability corporation. I'm the one that showed you how to set up a board of trustees and redo the deed so that the guy that your family was pastoring under couldn't snatch the church out from under you. And you can't do me this favor. And I gave you half a hog and let you use my lawnmower all last summer, let you use my tiller to do your garden with, and gave you seeds for your garden, which they got screwed on the half a hog deal. The guy that took their half to finish processing, because I just took my half and cut it up into primal cuts and threw it all in the freezer in bags. He brings them back a few packs of meat. He left here with about 150 to 175 pounds of meat on the bone. There should have been at least 100 to 115 pounds of nothing but meat, and they didn't get but about 20 pounds. And he's one of the three of us that are trustees to the land and the church. Yeah, he cheated them. Which, granted, he was the one helping me clean it. So, but the whole time we're talking, I was letting them know that, hey, half of this hog is for the church, not for you and him, for the church. But whenever we have cookouts and family meals and stuff like that, there's something there that we don't have to go buy, and we can put it on the grill and have a nice dinner, and just people bring sides, and the main meat dish is already done. He brings packs. Yeah, I see how that works with them. Which he ain't been my favorite fella since I met him. He's a little arrogant, little snipe. He comes, he and his wife drive from Savannah, Georgia to where I live, which is an hour and a half away, because it makes them feel good to be the richest people in the church. She works for Gulfstream, and he's on disability, and they want to be big fish in a little pond. That's for you, Beach family. Big fish, little pond, aquaponics show. Yeah, sometimes they just get to listen to me and they don't say nothing for minutes, Beach. But I'm trying to keep up with what all you guys are saying, and whenever y'all say something, I kind of chime in, or throw my 2 cents in. And but hopefully, when this little cold snap breaks, I'll be able to. They've already got their squash and stuff planted, and they're off to a head start on me, and they think they've got me beat on the garden, and my potatoes are knee high, and theirs are barely sprouting out the ground. But their squash are coming up, and I don't even have any planted. Yeah, you just watch old Morgan. Old Morgan's going to show you how. I don't have to be as early as everybody else. I learned a long time ago patience is a virtue. And all I got to do is wait. And if I wait till the weather is right to plant the seeds will catch up to everybody who grew theirs in a greenhouse and got them started early. Mine will catch up. I learned that little trick from my dad. He told me a long time ago, the only things that's worth buying started off already are tomato plants and pepper plants, because you can get a head start on them. But then he showed me that he could go out there and take tomato seeds and plant them at the same time he plants tomato plants. And in the course of about a month or two, you can't tell the difference between which one was bought from the store and which one was started from seed. Bonnie plants are everywhere and they are expensive. I'm lucky, about 10 miles from me, there is a uh, production greenhouse that they do flowers, vegetables, all kinds of stuff, and that's where I get most of mine. I don't go with the Bonnie all that. They pot them up so they can charge more, and it's not worth it. I get a bundle for $5 of 50 tomato plants. and they're all little triangle bottom roots, and all I got to do is plant them, get them watered, and I very seldom lose any. You know, they sprout these for production growers and home gardeners. You know, there's still quite a bit of those down here. Bonnie Plants has a farm here in Georgia, but I'm pretty sure they've got another one somewhere else. I think there's one in Florida because they're almost nationwide as far as I know. Tomato seeds like to be warm, so if it's not at least 75 degrees, um, they're not going to do very well at sprouting. So you might want to get a heat mat to go up under them. Purple taters grow just like any other tater. They just got a different color skin, and the leaves are a little bit different, but they grow just like red potatoes and white potatoes. If they're 3 inches tall, you could go out there now and side dress them with a fertilizer of your choice and pull that dirt up to where it's at the very bottom of the crown of leaves. And then when they get up about another 6, 7 inches, do that again and just keep doing it, because the more hill of dirt you have on Irish potatoes, the more potatoes you get. And it's time for me to do that with my potatoes one more time at least, is fertilize and pull that dirt up. If I'm not mistaken, I know where the Bonnie plant is in Georgia, but as many states as they cover, they've got to have more than one farm. Like Baker Creek gets their seeds from different farmers who grow just for them. You know, either that or they've got different operations. I think there's one in South Florida that they start with first, and then the one in Georgia goes into production, and then I think there's another one. I think there's like three Bonnie Seed um, or Bonnie Plant Company farms, and there used to be another uh, place that did seeds and stuff over in the next county over that they. I was gonna do fingerling potatoes this year, but I didn't. But that greenhouse business went out. They folded. Well, thank you, Beach, because I was going to put a info card on my next video for people to go check you out. Oh, I love clematis. It's one of the few vining flowers that I don't mind. I just wish I could get up a good fence so that way I wouldn't have to cut them back every year and do a whole lot to them. Because where I live, clematis it'll overwinter itself and come back the next year. And to see one 20 or 30 foot long in full bloom is amazing. Now down here we see Bonnie plants at Walmart. 70 farms. I knew of three, which I figured they had to have quite a few to be able to supply like they do. Because I'm surprised Walmart's doing anything on their own with their own seed or anything like that. But if they are, they're probably buying them from um, what's the name of that? Probably Guernsey. One of those big name seed companies that always want to market the little package seeds. Yeah, I try not to buy anything from Walmart. Walmart's the evil empire. I buy all of my feed. It may not be organic, which I don't care. It's going to the animals anyway. And I'm not totally organic in my farming practices, but I use the least lethal chemicals that I can get. And whenever it says put 4 teaspoons to the gallon, I put 2 and see if it works. And if it works, then I leave it there. If it don't, then I'll put 3. And I get to where it's got to be to do the job, and I leave it. I don't use the recommended dosage because that's just overusing the chemical. Plus, it's just a selling point for them. You run out of it faster, and you got to go buy more. I ain't about all that. Clematis likes to be damp, but it doesn't like to have feet wet. And they're really pretty easy as long as they've got plenty of sun and a little bit of shade. They usually do well. The only thing I've noticed is if I do use Roundup, and I'm not fond of Roundup, it does not work as well as it used to. You got to buy the brand name for it to work well. The generics don't work near as well. They've changed the formulation on them, and I'm sure part of that's due to pricing, but it's a way to get you to buy more faster. But I learned a little trick with using it. If you take that Roundup and you mix it up, you can mix it up less than what they recommend. Squirt you a couple tablespoons of dish soap in the water and use warm water. And once you put your dish soap in last now, I learned this the hard way. Don't put it in first because it'll sud up and you won't be able to do nothing. But you put that dish soap in there and shake it up, and it works with any kind of work, even organic weed killers. Soap helps out. Dish soap, Dawn detergent is amazing. It breaks that waxy layer on the leaf and weed surface, and it lets that herbicide get down into the plant a whole lot faster and a whole lot more. Gurney's, yeah, they do a lot. And that's probably where Walmart's subcontracting out and getting their own name on stuff from. I'll have to look that one up to see what the flower looks like because I'm not sure about the name of that one right offhand. But yeah, clematis are they'll grow like crazy. They'll vine all over the place. I won't buy an avocado from Walmart unless I have to. I'd rather get them from my local grocery store. They cost the same and they ain't been beat up and bruised up as much as what comes from Walmart. Oh yeah, and I've known that for years. That's why I'm careful about where I put Roundup. Roundup goes on my fence line. It don't go in my garden. It keeps my electric fence from being grounded out, and that's it. Then I also use another pre-emergent herbicide to keep the grass from coming back. So that way I only have to spray maybe twice a year at most. As a matter of fact, what I sprayed last year is still dead as a hammer. It ain't come back, which is a plus. I wouldn't say it is the scourge. It is one of these scourges because there is more than one chemical out there. Dicambra is next one on the list. They've already outlawed it in Europe. Dicambra makes Roundup look like a baby. Look that bad boy up and see if you want to eat something that's been growing in the field that had dicambra sprayed on it. But Bayer Chemical was smart. They dropped the name Monsanto. Oh, definitely refresh and come on back. And everybody's always talking about non-GMO, non-GMO. We can't go buy GMO seed. We don't have 500 acres of grain that we're growing. We can't get Roundup ready seed. So the GMO debate is pointless. It is made for commercial agricultural producers, and they have to sign agreements not to save seeds and stuff like that, which most of the time the seeds are hybrid anyway, so there's no reason to save them. They're not going to breed back true anyway. But stuff like cotton is open pollinated and they will breed back true the next year, but the gene is still in them. And if that cotton is next to somebody else's cotton who doesn't have Roundup ready cotton, Monsanto would go in and sue them because they saved their seeds that had been pollinated by bees. And now they've got Roundup ready genes in their cotton that they didn't want to begin with, which they should have been suing Monsanto instead of Monsanto suing them because Monsanto contaminated their crop, not them stealing Monsanto's genes. Totally backwards way of doing it, but that's what Monsanto did. They sued a lot of farmers and put them out of business over cross pollination and copyrights. And I'm not a big believer in copyrights, but I understand they're necessary for these companies to be able to come up with products that we can use and be healthy and sustain our agriculture. But I believe that a copyright after 25 years, they should not be allowed to renew it. You get one 25-year copyright, then after that, open market time. Any other body that wants to produce it can produce it. But I believe there needs to be a lot more USDA testing on all these things and keep this CRISPR technology out of my food and out of my meat. And if you guys don't know what CRISPR technology is, man, I have used damn near glacial acetic acid to try and kill weeds, and it doesn't work. I have used 10% bleach, and it doesn't work on killing the weeds around here. So Roundup only goes on the fence line, and that's it. In the garden, I'll hit it with the 10%, or not 10%. I'll hit it with 10% bleach, and if that'll brown it up a little bit, then whenever it starts to green back, I'll go back and I don't use vinegar. I use glacial acetic acid, which is like 80 to 97% pure vinegar acetic acid, which is vinegar. And then after that, I can pretty well handle whatever's in the garden. but definitely always use the dish soap. Break down that waxy layer, kills them better. Yeah, that's when Roundup really worked. Like I said, they've changed the chemical formulation in it, and they did that on purpose so that people would go and buy more of it. Okay, Virginia, thanks for stopping in. But I remember those old Roundup bottles and the look like an old brown moonshine bottle. But I don't believe that the USDA does enough testing to actually, in my opinion, legitimately put products on the market. They don't do near enough, and the testing that is done is usually done by the company itself, so the results are already skewed from the beginning. Because naturally, if I have a product and I want to sell it and I've got to do tests to prove that it works and it's safe, yeah, I'm going to skew the results in my favor so that I can get it to market faster. Whether it's safe or not is to be debated because they put Roundup on the market after 5 years of testing, and look at us now, almost 40 years later, and look what we got on our hands. Did they do enough testing in the beginning to find out? No, they didn't. Hello, Ontario Homestead. Let me guess, you're Canadian, or I could be wrong, but I don't think so. Nah, I'm just messing with you. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Oh, we're just bitching about chemicals and being organic and stuff like that because I'm not totally organic in my farming. Like the fertilizer you buy in bags, they call them synthetic fertilizers. They're not synthetic. Only the ammonium nitrate part for the nitrogen is synthetic. It's a byproduct of petroleum distillation. The potassium and the phosphorus is 95% of it in this country is mined, just like salt is mined. So it's in a mineral state that is not man made. People don't realize that. They just call it synthetic. Yep. And you know what? I'd love to have one of those old jugs now just to put up on the wall to have. I know where to get the clear jugs that are brand new that I could set me up a good steal and start making some nice corn mash whiskey. Well, see, you've got a balanced education. You know the ups and downs, the pros and cons of both worlds. I'm a mixture of the two. I'll use pesticides, but I try to stay with organic pesticides as much as possible. But if I can't solve it with an organic pesticide or something that I come up with for myself, which Kinfolk from Georgia is another channel on YouTube that he wants to be organic, and I told him he had a fire ant problem. I told him to take a pack of red man chewing tobacco, steep it in a gallon of water, let the nicotine soak out of it, and then pour it on the ant bed. Well, he puts the pack in a gallon of water. He just lets it set all afternoon. It didn't get hot enough to pull the nicotine out of the water or out of the tobacco into the water. And then he doesn't even bother to stir up the ant bed or nothing. He just dumps it on top. It killed about half the bed. Okay, you're an idiot because I'll take these cigarette butts, save them in a 2 liter bottle, and whenever it gets about half full, I'll fill it full of water, set it on my front porch, and let the sun hit it for 2 or 3 days. And then I'll strain it off, put it in my garden sprayer, and I'll go out back and I'll kill the devil out of squash, vine borers, and potato beetles, and any other bug that's nearby because nicotine is very, very toxic. Malathion is a worthless chemical anyway. I remember when Malathion was used for mosquitoes and flies, and it would work for a week around a chicken pen. Just you didn't even have to spray. You could spray the chickens for mites and stuff with it, and it wouldn't hurt them. But you didn't have to. All you had to do was spray outside the chicken pen, and it would work for a week. Malathion will not kill a fly unless the fly is actually hit with the wet spray. If it walks across a surface that Malathion was sprayed on an hour ago, the fly will not die. They have used it so much and they have overused it, misused it. It does. It's worthless. You waste your money buying it. Don't even don't even waste your time on Malathion. Yeah, I haven't set up a steal in a long time, but I've been thinking about doing a little bit of bootlegging since it's still illegal where I live to sell alcohol on Sundays, and I know a lot of drunks, and I'm not a drinker, so I've thought about going back into that. But now as far as pesticides go, my favorite is pyrethrin, which is an organic certified chemical. And once it's dry, that's pretty much it. It only lasts the longest hold time on any product you spray it on is 3 days. But once it's dry, its killing power is pretty much cut in half, and the next day it's dead. Totally organic. It's made from chrysanthemums and African daisies. Pyrethrum. Pyrethrum is the name of the plant. And I use permethrin, which is a synthetic version of pyrethrum, but it's not listed as organic. But that's my go-to pesticide if I've got a problem that I can't solve with nicotine. Exactly. Chemicals have their place and they're usually a last resort. Lisa, your phone just does not speak your language. Or Elizabeth, your phone does not speak your language. That's like my phone. I'm still teaching it how to speak redneck after 2 years of owning it. Um, yeah, you'll want that training because ammonia, NH3 is ammonia, NH4OH is ammonium hydroxide, which is the same thing. You'll want that training because if you inhale that too much, it will cause damage to your body severely. Wow, it must be expensive up there where you are. I might need to start saving gas money to make a trip up there with a few gallons of this stuff. No, they don't. They've got nicotinoid chemicals now, but not nicotine dust. Nicotine was the only chemical pesticide that ever carried a skull and crossbones on it, because the nicotine in one drop that'll fit on the end of a straight pin is enough to kill a human being and a horse. It is very toxic. All right, Jimmy. Glad you stopped by, buddy. Baking soda, and it does a lot with your funguses and stuff like that too, because it changes the pH of the outside of the leaf. That way, the fungus doesn't have the proper pH that it needs to actually take hold and grow. So you're not only killing a few pests, because when you increase their pH of their body, they die off too. But you're doing double duty. It's a pesticide and fungicide. Oh yeah, anhydrous ammonia. That's NH3, and it will do more than melt your skin. Actually, it doesn't melt your skin. It's under pressure, so it's colder than it comes out at negative something degrees and negative 175 or something like that, maybe 200, negative 200 degrees, because it's got to be pressurized to be in a liquid state like propane. And it in a way it looks like it's melted, but it's actually frozen you. But you definitely don't want to inhale too much of it either, because it'll really tear your lungs up, and you could wind up drowning just while you're standing there working. You could drown because your body's going to produce mucus to try and fight off that ammonia that's you've inhaled. And all it takes is a teaspoon of water, and you can drown. If your lungs get a teaspoon of water in them, you can drown. So just imagine if you're standing up working around ammonia all day, and you inhale enough of it, and your body produces mucus to try and fight that ammonia off, and you wind up gaining more mucus than what your body can absorb in a given amount of time, you could wind up drowning. Man, and I thought $5 a pack was outrageous for cigarettes. I think me and you need to probably get together on uh, Facebook and message back and forth. But $60 for 60 ounces, that's a little less than half a gallon. A gallon of it here goes for the good stuff goes for about 50, $60 a gallon. So the whiskey's about the same price. Yeah, I'm a federal peanut inspector, and I've got to recertify every year myself, so I know exactly what you're talking about. But yeah, you definitely want to be wearing your respirator and all your protective gear, because I was thinking it was around negative 200, but I wasn't sure, because the first thought that popped into my head was 175, but no, 172 is the boiling point of ethanol whenever you go to distill out whiskey. I was thinking on the wrong subject, but close to the right number. Well, you wouldn't want to drive where I live. I live right by Florida. You'd spend more in gas than what you'd make on going back up there. But We might be able to set something up where Greyhound does a little shipping across the Canadian border for us. I'll ship it from a fake address, and you get somebody that you don't particularly care if they go to jail to pick it up and split it with them. That way, if they get caught, you don't know nothing about it. Well, I'm not close. Well, I am close to both of the interstates that run through Georgia. He'll be going somewhere close by me for too long, probably tomorrow or the next day. You can't cross the border. Are you one of those terrorists? Are you on a no-fly list? You Canadians are some crazy people because now you've got these gun restrictions and stuff going on that they're trying to get passed over here in this country that I don't agree with. There was a lot less crime in the old days whenever you knew that the person that you were about to rob more than likely had a gun, and it made you think twice. Because I can take a single shot shotgun and I can hold 100 people at bay and they will not attack me because nobody wants to be the one to get that single bullet. It's not too hard to get a passport here, but they're expensive, and really, I don't want to go to any other country. If I did, it'd have to be somewhere. No, I don't want to go to another country. I like being right here where I am, out in the country, where I have freedom and nobody bothers me. Yes, we do. We've pretty much got open carry all over the United States, except for a few radical liberal left wing agenda cities. But open carry is legal, and I've got concealed carry, so I don't worry about it. You come up behind me and try to rob me, you're a dead man. I don't believe I have ever had rich and rare. I got to be honest with you, I don't drink much Canadian whiskey. Lord Calvert, I'm not a big fan. About the only Canadian whiskey I drink is Crown Royal. But my favorite is a Kentucky bourbon called Maker's Mark. And trust me, it's like 80 bucks for almost, well, 80 bucks for about half a gallon. But it is so smooth. Oh, man. No fire going down your throat whenever you drink it. 4 or 5 shots and you feel good. You just relax, calm. No, men today can't because a lot of them grew up without daddies, so they don't know how to go out and fist fight and settle it. They got to go straight to the gun, and that's where we got the problem. That and they don't. I have nothing against a background check, but if you're fucking nuts, you don't need a gun to begin with. I've had early times. It's not bad. And Evan Williams, I like the green label better than I do the regular. Not because it's stronger, it's 100 proof instead of 80, but it's smoother. I've heard of 40 Creek. I've never tried it. But with the people not knowing how to settle disputes like we did in the old days where you just got out there and fought it out, that's part of the reason why I went and got my concealed carry license, because I'm too damn old and worn out to be fighting anybody that's trying to rob me. I ain't fixing to fight them off. I'm fixing to shoot the bastard. Sorry about that, Ontario. I have a few words that are on the bucket list since we had a troll storm last night. I felt important, man. They were trolling left and right. Me and Elizabeth BD, we were we were swatting them out of the chat room left and right. Yeah, Canada's got some crazy ass laws, especially the way you're doing your elections now, where it it don't make sense because the little guys don't get represented fairly. Like in this country, they want to do away with the electoral college, and the electoral college is set up so that the states with small populations had equal say in who was elected president. Because if it came down to popular vote, New York and California, the two most left wing liberal nut states in this country, all vote Democrat. The other 48 states vote Republican. Well, the Democrat wins because they're so highly populated, and the popular vote would go to the Democrat, even though the rest of the states voted Republican. And folks don't understand that the Electoral College works on the way of keeping checks and balances and making sure that the rights of the few are not trampled by the rights of the many. Because without the Electoral College, if we were a true democratic society, it would be mob rule. And there's no way that can work and be fair to everyone. Exactly. Four wolves and three sheep. And that's what our left wing wants to do. They want to get rid of the electoral college, and then it's mob rule. And Elizabeth, you're right. We got a lot of different laws in a lot of different states. So if you don't like the laws in your state, move to one that has the laws that you agree with. You want to be a fruit and nut? Go to California. You want to be a left wing liberal social democrat commie? Move to New York. If you want to be a normal American, stay in the middle. They've been trying carbon tax here for years, but what good's it really going to do? If we tax our country on carbon emissions and you tax your country on carbon emissions, look at these fucking Chinese. It ain't the Russians we got to worry about anymore, and it ain't these crazy Islamic people we got to worry about. It's easy to solve their problem. Just stop growing cows and goats, and everybody grow pigs, and that be the only damn meat you get to eat. And them some bitches will submit when they got to eat some fucking pork. But the Chinese, they are some sneaky bastards. They have bought up interest in European ports because they're scared they're going to get blocked out of world trade because they're trying to take land in the South China Sea that doesn't belong to them. Look up on the Belt and Road Pathway or the String of Pearls, and maybe put slash China in there and see what they're doing. They're giving loans to these countries they know that can't pay back the money to do infrastructure. Then when they can't pay back the money, they go in, they take over the infrastructure that they loan the money for, and it's usually a port or some kind of transportation infrastructure. That way, they've got trade in the bargain, and they're going all the way from China, which India is their most feared enemy. India would love nothing more than to wipe them and Pakistan off the face of the earth. But they're going around and bypassing it all the way up into Europe to make sure they've got open trade routes. And you just wait. For long, in the next 20 years, China is going to be one of the biggest superpowers the earth has ever seen. And people just thought the United States was the end all be all of superpowers. China is going to be a force to be reckoned with. And if we went to war right now, I don't know if I would even bet on my own country to win. Yeah, luxury taxes are an abomination, in my opinion. Yeah, Justin Trudeau is a true communist, and we've got a bad problem with that on the left. Now they're attacking Joe Biden, saying they're not coming right out and saying it, but the hashtag Me Too movement now is coming to affect him because he's announced that he's running for president. They want a woman in office so damn bad it's pathetic. Just to show that the Democratic Party is so inclusive. The Democratic Party is full of racist, sexist scumbags, period. They don't want to do anything except take money from the people who work for it and give it to the people who don't. Spend, spend, spend is all they want to do. Exactly. And if the Democrats in this country don't straighten up, it's the New Zealand shooter. If you check out Think Like a Cop on BitChute, he's on YouTube also, but he puts a lot of his stuff on BitChute because YouTube's been on him lately because YouTube is a very liberal place, and he's conservative, but he just tells it like it is. But they don't like him, so he'll post a little trailer, tell you what the video's about, and then put a link to BitChute, and you can go watch it. This guy, I can't remember his name, but he has outlined what the New Zealand shooter wanted to do. And the New Zealand shooter was actually very brilliant. He accomplished his goals. And he was no fan of Trump. But go to BitChute, look up Think Like a Cop, and check that video out. It's about 15, 20 minutes long, but it is very well presented, very well thought out. It explains a whole lot about the New Zealand shooting and their knee jerk reaction. It's like in Australia now, if you even have copies on your computer or in paper of the New Zealand, anything about the New Zealand shooting, you face jail time. Those who forget the past are doomed to repeat it. So if you want to wipe that out the history books, go ahead, because you know what? You're just going to make it that much sooner that it happens again. Yeah, it was, and I can't remember their name, but it's on the tip of my. I'll think of it later on tonight. But when it comes to taking guns from the American citizens, they got another thing coming. They can legislate all they want to, but it ain't going to happen, and that will cause another civil war in this country. It was either Johnson or the one from South Carolina, Strom Thurmond. It was either Johnson or Strom Thurmond. It was one of those two, I believe, said it, because they said it back in the '60s whenever they passed the right to vote for them. And the worst part is they were telling the truth, and it's actually turning out to be true. But then again, I don't use the word nigger very often, but you can't teach a nigger a damn thing they don't already know, because they have learned how to use the system to get everything they have for free from the government. Yep, they own Smithfield, largest pork producer in this country, and it belongs to China. Actually, the British own more of the United States economy than any other foreign country, but China is running a close second. And China ain't going to go down without a fight. We'll have to nationalize to take that back from China. And that's going to cause a shooting war. Hey, James. And no, I'm not the one that buys the Chinese junk. I look for the Made in America flag on my stuff. I'll pay extra for it. I believe in it. Yep, you're right, Ontario. You understand American politics better than most Americans do. If only Americans had any idea what the hell they were voting for, because all they hear is what the guy says he's going to do. And they're like, oh, great, that's wonderful for me. Yeah, Elizabeth, except for Jimmy Carter. That was the last true conservative Democrat we ever had in office. He was a true Southern conservative Democrat. He was more of a moderate Republican today than a Democrat is today. Very wise man, and I feel honored and privileged to have actually met him and hear him speak. Very honored and privileged. And that picture, if you ever look my name up on Facebook, you'll see me standing next to Jimmy Carter and his wife Rosalind. Don't call her Rosalind. Don't ever do that. She gets mad. Her name is Rosalind, not Rosalind. I thought that was quite funny. But yeah, if you ever look me up on Facebook, there's a picture of me standing next to him and her in his church in Americus, Georgia, where I used to live, and I've been by the church a million times, and I finally decided at 47 years old, 48 years old, something like that, my birthday present to myself was going to go see him teach Sunday school, so that's what I did. Oh my God, you don't know how much money you are sitting on if you have Billy Beer in the can. Oh my Lord, you don't know how rich you can be. A six pack can go for thousands of dollars. And Willie Nelson once said that he smoked dope on the roof of the White House with the president, but he couldn't say which one it was. But he would give us a hint. It was after Gerald Ford, but before Ronald Reagan. So I wonder who that could be. Jimmy Carter's just one cool ass dude. That's all there is to it. Well, it's probably vinegar by now, but since the can has been unopened and it's still got the beer in it, it is worth a fortune. Empty cans can go for $100, $200 as long as they're in good shape and they're not being faded out or scratched up. You know, it's no problem to get $200 for an empty can of Billy beer. Easy boy, stop snoring, buddy. I'm doing a live stream over here. You're bothering me, son. My cat snores. But yeah, I've been to. Well, I used to live right in the town right next to Jimmy Carter's hometown, and I've seen his farm and everything. I mean, and yeah, he was that straight up peanut farmer from Georgia that won governor and then ran for president and won president. And if it hadn't have been for the Iranian hostage crisis, see, they want to go after Trump for collusion with Russia, but nobody ever said a damn thing about Ronald Reagan. Don't you say nothing bad about Ronald Reagan. Even Democrats won't say nothing bad about Ronald Reagan because he defeated communism. Yeah, but Ronald Reagan went behind the American public's back and they dealt with the Iranians to get the hostages released. And what day were they released? They were released the day he took office. And when he was given the oath, the hostages were being put on a plane in Iran to fly to Germany to the Air Force base we have there. You tell me, did Trump do anything different? Trump did less than Ronald Reagan, and they spent 2 years and 40 million fucking dollars to try and prove he did something bad, and Ronald Reagan did something worse, and Barack Obama gave them their fucking money back that they didn't deserve. So who's worse? People forget that. I was 12 years old when Ronald Reagan got elected. I remember my dad and my granddad watching the presidential debates. And back then they had more than two or three. It was damn near a week's worth. And back then, when the president was on TV, he was on every fucking channel. It was miserable for a 12-year-old. But I watched it. Didn't have nothing else to watch. I remember it. I remember seeing Ronald Reagan inaugurated. I thought Ronald Reagan did a pretty good job. My dad thought he did a pretty good job until he took almost half of my dad's retirement to bail out the railroads and stop the air traffic controller strike. And my dad hadn't voted Republican since then. And he flip-flopped back and forth between Democrat and Republican his whole life because whoever would do the best job or made the most sense is who he voted for. Now he'll vote for a Democrat over a Republican just because of what Ronald Reagan did, which is sad. Contra. Are you talking about Iran-Contra affair? Oddly enough, the Iran-Contra affair, Oliver North was asked why he had the security system he had at his home. Who was he scared of? And this was back in 1989 and 90. Oliver North said Osama bin Laden. What happened there? The Republicans are all wrong because they see what's going on and they'll stop things. Democrats, nah. Everybody's got to have their safe space, and we can't say things that hurt their feelings. And whenever they play t-ball, everybody gets a trophy, even the losers. You know what? When I was growing up, we called second place first loser. Donald Trump is a fucking idiot and a moron, but the man is spot on whenever it comes to economic policy and putting America first, because at least he's a damn patriot, and I respect the hell out of him for that, even though I don't particularly care for him, and I didn't vote for him in the primary. But I damn sure wouldn't vote for him in the general election because Hillary Clinton ain't nothing but a lying, murdering crook. Left those men in Benghazi out to hang and dry and be butchered, stole all that money from all these Saudi Arabian princes and crap to get time at the Clinton Foundation, all peddling influence, peddling influence in our American politics is all she did. That lying piece of shit. Wow, fast fire extinguishers. That is old. Yep, got my glass of sweet tea right here. Hillary was a liar. James Powers, you were being very nice to the woman. The Clintons have been an embarrassment to this country ever since they entered the national political scene back in 1990, running for his presidential election in 92. Exactly, Ontario. Exactly. Like I said, when I was growing up, second place was first loser. And nobody wanted to be first loser, so everybody tried hard. But now you're going to get a trophy whether you win or lose, so why try hard? You still get the trophy. That's the Democrat philosophy. That's Alexandria Occasional Cortex's philosophy. You already have the money, so we're going to take it from you and we're going to give it to this guy because he has no money. Well, the man don't have a job. Yeah, but he don't have any money, so we got to give him some money so he can get a job. No, if you give him money, the son of a bitch just gonna go get drunk. Bernie Sanders, I don't completely agree with, but Bernie Sanders is a smart man. I give him credit. AOC, Alexandria Occasional Cortex, as I like to refer to her, is a blithering fucking moron. The best part of her ran down the crack of her mama's ass and ended up a brown stain on the mattress. Let's just face facts. And she's already made enough waves in her own party that her own party is planning to get rid of her in the next 2 years. But there's only two Democrats that I have any respect for at all, and that's Joe Biden and Bernie Sanders. Because both of them stand up for what they believe in. And when they make an argument, they actually argue the correct way. They don't attack people. They go after the principle and idea and present their side in a factual manner, even though the facts might be skewed or old facts. They know how to debate without attacking the person and their character. But I'm not big into Bernie Sanders and his social platform. But if they wanted a Democrat in the White House that damn bad, maybe the DNC should start looking into how they let Hillary steal the election from him, because he should have been the one that won the primary, not Hillary Clinton. She took that from him. She stole it. Ontario, do you know the difference between socialism and communism? My favorite former president would have to be Dwight Eisenhower and Harry Truman. One Democrat, one Republican. Because when Harry Truman said the buck stops here, he meant it. And he didn't mind cussing in the White House because he called one man a son of a bitch and told him to get the hell out because he didn't like the way his daughter was playing piano. No, the difference between socialism and communism is forced upon you by the government. Socialism is whenever you elect it into office upon yourself. That's the only difference. You choose to be dominated under socialism. Under communism, somebody chooses to dominate you. Trudeau is a blithering idiot. You ought to have been better off electing that son of a bitch that was the mayor of whatever town that was smoking crack. That fat dude reminded me of Chris Farley. At least he was honest about his damn mistakes and his past and all this shit. Trudeau's a fucking moron. He's like Hillary Clinton with a dick. Exactly. Look at Venezuela. Look what's going on with them. Socialism works good for about the first 20 years. And after that, there's no more wealth to distribute. The wealth goes to the party, like it does in China. The only rich people in China are party members. The average Joe on the street barely survives. And that's the way they want it. keep you poor, keep you uneducated, keep you unarmed, and they can do with you as they please. Do I think LGBT is dumb? It is no more dumb than Black Lives Matter. I don't give a damn what anybody does in their bedroom. It's none of my fucking business. If a man wants to suck another man off, I don't care. It's none of my business. If they want to get married, I don't give a damn. Let them. They're usually pretty damn healthy people and live to be a ripe old age, so they make my health care costs and my insurance premiums go down. Let them get married. I don't care. Equal protection under the law. If you want to choose to be gay, or if you're born gay, or however they put it, I don't care. It's none of my business. That's between you and the Lord, or your God, or however you believe. I have no problem with any of it. But if you go somewhere and you want a wedding cake, and the guy who owns the place doesn't believe in gay marriage and doesn't want to make you a wedding cake, just pull your big girl panties up and take your little womanly man ass down the road to the next fucking bakery. Don't make a big deal out of it just because somebody believes different than you and you think your rights were stepped on. They weren't stepped on because you stepped on his rights. Yeah, there's a YouTube channel that I subscribe to called Rifle Chair. He's from over on the west side of Canada, and your government's going crazy over the guns. And that's just the start of where it all begins to end. Because once you unarm the population where they can't defend themselves, and you say we'll protect you, that's why we have the Second Amendment. A well-regulated militia is essential to protecting the population from a tyrannical government. And they don't mean foreign government; they mean domestic. Exactly. What people do behind closed doors is none of my damn business. And those are the gay people that need to have their ass locked the fuck up because they're inciting violence. Whenever you go out and you make it known that you're gay, fine. Whenever you go out and run your mouth about how many rights you have because you're gay and that you're denied your rights because you're gay, you're starting shit and you're stirring the pot and you need to be called out on it because that's bullshit. Just go do what you want to do and keep your damn mouth shut. The military had it right for years. Don't ask, don't tell. B stands for bisexual. Personally, I'm not bisexual because I'm not going to pay for it anyway. That's just me. But I think that it's spelled differently than the way I'm pronouncing it. That's just another story. Exactly. I'm what I call myself a NIMBY. Not in my backyard. As long as it's not in my backyard, I do not care what you do in your backyard. Well, Elizabeth, you have a good night. Glad you stopped by. we always start off on gardening and wind up on some kind of obscure topic. And yes, Ontario, you better buy as many as you can. And I would suggest in this country, you have to fill out a form to buy them. They can track them through it. But with over 8 million people owning guns, and you look at how many years they've been filling out this form, that's a lot of forms to go through to find out who owns what. And a lot of those people don't own those guns anymore. Find you a gun somebody is selling instead of buying one from a gun shop. That way, the government doesn't know you have it. Well, now, God does care if you're gay. He doesn't like gay people, but like I said, that's between them and the Lord. They're the ones that have to stand before Him and be judged by Him. They don't have to be judged by me. I've got a lot of gay friends, and they know how I feel about it. They know I'm a Baptist. They know I don't believe in my Bible says if you're gay, you're going to hell. But if they want to come to church with me, they're more than welcome to come and sit by me. I don't care. I'm not going to deny them that right to hear the word of the Lord. And I'm not going to sit there and jump down their throat because they're gay and tell them they're going to hell. They'll find that out the day they stand before the good Lord. The judgment is called on them. Because the Bible says, do not judge, lest ye be judged. But that means that I'm not supposed to judge someone who is not a Christian. I am supposed to judge someone who says they're a Christian, and if they don't act like a Christian and do things that Christians do, then I'm supposed to separate myself from them. So we are supposed to judge. We're supposed to judge each other, but we're not supposed to judge those who are not of us. We're supposed to witness to them and try to show them the light. That's where people make the mistake. They don't read the Bible and interpret it the way it should, the way it was meant to be interpreted, the way it was written. Exactly. And everybody talks about how meek that the Lord and Christ are and how gracious they are and all that. Um, it seems to me that Christ was not one to hold his tongue. He may not have ever fist fought anybody in the Bible, or at least not that was ever written down in any of the books that we have in our Bible. Maybe in some other historical document, there is an altercation that's physical that involved Christ. We don't know because the Council of Nicaea, when they determined what books were going to be in the Bible and which ones were not, and I think that was around 1300. There's a lot of books that the Jewish people have that we don't have. Um, if you're into biblical stuff, check out the Book of Enoch and the Book of Thomas. The Book of Thomas was written by the apostle, and the Book of Enoch was actually written before any other book in the Bible. And very interesting, very informative. But Christ did not hold his tongue. How many times did he call someone a viper or any other kind of name? He spoke his mind. He ran the people out of the temple, the money changers, physically ran them out under threat of being clubbed and turned their tables over, chased them with a club. So you tell me, was Christ really meek and humble? No, he was a human just like us. He was the only one that was ever sinless and blameless, because you can't blame him for being upset that they desecrated his father's house. Exactly. But people are quick to throw that in your face, especially Democrats. Christ was meek. He was humble. He died on the cross. Yes, he did. But look at what he did before he died. They don't want to see all that. They just want to see the good. They just want to see the easy part. They don't want to see the hard part. They don't want to see the part that steps on your toes and makes you think, am I doing something wrong? Am I not living the way I'm supposed to live? They don't want that. I've seen people get up and walk out of a church service because they got their toes stepped on by what the pastor was preaching. And I've gotten up and I've walked out of church services because what the pastor said wasn't correct, or at least not in my belief. At the end of all my videos, I made the point of saying, be it, there's no better place on Sunday to be than the church of your choice, giving thanks and praise to the Lord God above for the blessings we do not deserve. People need to remember that, but they don't. They only want to remember what's easy to remember. I was raised in the church, and after high school, I left the church, went to college. Was always busy on the weekends doing things because I got to come home, and I spent many years away. I've been trying to quit. I went to these cigar type things because they go out and I constantly have to light them. Pain in the butt, but it helps. But I got into a car wreck, and it was toward the end of a relationship that was very toxic because she was a drunk, and I wanted to stop drinking because I'm a pot smoker myself. I'd rather smoke a joint than anything else. But that car wreck could have killed me, and I realized it. And after I moved back to my hometown, I was sitting in the car one afternoon listening to the radio because at the time didn't have a TV or anything like that. And the only radio that had any good music on it was a Christian rock station from the next state down in Florida. And a song came on, and the Lord just reached down and he grabbed me by the heart and he squeezed. And I've been going back to church ever since. Slipped a little bit, got another wreck, wound up breaking my back. And ever since then, I've pretty much stayed on the straight and narrow. Not to say that I still ain't going to smoke my weed. or take my anxiety medicine whenever I need it. Because nowhere in the Bible does it say that I can't smoke weed. Nowhere in the Bible does it say I shouldn't drink. If I shouldn't drink, the Lord wouldn't have turned water into wine for other people to consume. And nowhere in the Bible does it say that Jesus never consumed alcohol. It just never mentions him drinking. But he had the Last Supper. And what did they drink? Back in those days, you didn't drink much water because water would make you sick. You drank beer and you drank wine because the alcohol killed the bacteria in the water. So, yes, of course, Christ drank alcohol. I don't care what anybody says. That's just the way it was back then. It won't be long. In another 5 or 10 years, it'll be legal all over this country, too. Damn it, went out again. All things in moderation, none to excess. Yeah, I must be shedding. But there is nothing that the Lord has given us on earth that we are not to use for our body's nourishment, whether it be alcohol, whether it be an herb, whether it be certain kinds of food. That was all given to us to use. He gave strict rules to the Jewish people about what they could eat, just to separate them from the rest of the world, because they were his chosen people. The one thing I don't eat is I don't eat blood sausage. In the Bible, it says you may eat of any animal of the field, but do not consume its blood, because that is its life force. Just as it is ours, just as it was as the blood of Christ. You don't eat the blood. So I don't, anytime I butcher an animal, they get bled out. And I don't save any of it for blood sausage or any of those other Eastern European delicacies or anything like that. Because that is the life force that the good Lord put in that animal. And that is the life force that we took away to nourish ourselves. And it should return to the earth where it came from. And people they don't realize that. Just butchered a pig last week. And I gave half of it to the church, the little church up the road that annoy the hell out of me all the time. But they're good people. So I tolerate it. And they do for me, and I do for them. Good neighbors. But one of the members of the church helped me butcher it out. And he knew that I was giving half of that hog to the church. So he carried their half to finish processing it. I just put mine in primal cuts and threw it in the freezer and said, whenever I need pork chops, I'll pull out this whole section of pork chops and I'll let it thaw and cut them all at once. Be done with it. I need a roast or something. I'll pull out a piece, I'll cut it, do what I got to do then. I wasn't going to spend the time because my back was already killing me from my accident from 3 years ago. And so I just bagged mine up. He left with about 175 pounds of meat on the bone. And I got about 175 pounds of meat in my freezer on the bone. Well, he brings the pastor and her husband. And I don't particularly believe in female pastors, but if a man ain't going to step up and do the job, then I have no problem with a woman doing it. And so far, I haven't heard her speak anything that wasn't truthful and biblical, so I let it go. But this guy that helped me butcher the hog brings them 3 packs of meat out of 175 pounds. Each one of the hams weighed about 50 pounds. They didn't get 50 pounds of meat. And I already didn't like this fella too much to begin with. Now I've got even more reason not to like him. I give a hog, half a hog to the church so that whenever they have special events and they're going to cook and invite people to come and eat and fellowship and have dinner together. Yeah, this pig was about 400 pounds. Took 2 rounds from my 380, one right here above the eyes, straight through the head, one right here through the head, and then as it was about to teeter-totter and fall over, finally, after about 5 minutes, the dude that was working with me pulls out his 22 Magnum and shoots her in the head and knocks her on over. Wasn't necessary. Yeah, it's not the first time either. The church had some material that he was nice enough to put on his credit card, and then the church was going to pay him back when we got our money from the organization that we just split off from. But he still hasn't brought the receipt from where he returned the merchandise that we didn't use and got his money back. So he made a little bit of money off of us. And he's bringing some lumber, and he's brought some tin to build an outdoor shower for the church because the pastor and her husband live behind the church in a camper. She's on disability. If he gets on disability, that's going to cut their food stamps and cut her disability and basically be the same amount of money for both of them to be on disability because they're too ignorant to know how to use the system and get what is owed to them. Their daughter gets disability. Their daughter's husband gets disability. And all 4 of them live up at the church. Mom and dad in the camper, 2 kids in an empty room inside the church behind the sanctuary. Man knew that I gave that hog to help them out and for the church not have to go out and spend money whenever they were going to cook and have fellowship. Not happy with it. But you wait, that wood and that tin and all that I mentioned, that's going to be his offering. Instead of giving cash that could help them pay the power bill and the phone bill and gas to go back and forth for them to visit the sick people in the church and the things that they need to do for the church, that'll be his offering. Which, that's between him and the Lord. Not my place to say anything. But at the same time, I'm not one to give them money either. I give them stuff out of my garden. I let them use my garden equipment to make their own garden. I let them use my leftover seeds that I have. Instead of me planting a second crop, I'll go buy more seed to plant my second crop. I'm helping them out because that way I don't have to give them what I grow. They can grow their own. And anytime they need advice, they're always down here. So, that's my contribution to the church. But it irritates me that they live there the way they do. I don't like it that they live in poverty, but that's on them. They've got roughly $40,000 a year coming in from the government on 3 disability checks. They get food stamps, but they don't have much to eat. And they live in a camper. They don't have to pay electricity on that camper. The church does. They don't have to pay for a phone. Church provides it. They don't have to pay for gas to go everywhere they go, just some of it. They make a trip to town to visit somebody that's sick or in the hospital or do something for the church. They'll put $10 in. It only takes them about $2 to go back to town. Yeah, that don't make me happy either. So not only did he take from the church by not giving them the meat that was due them and the church, but they take from the church by not paying their own bills. And I'm the one that taught them how to set up a limited liability corporation, to get organized, to set up a board of trustees on the deed so that the place could not be snatched out from under them and her kicked out of that church as pastor and someone else be put in their place, because that plan was in motion. And when I met the man that was over the organization, in 5 seconds I knew he was not a man of God. He was a man of money. And that's all he was after. Well, Ontario, thanks for stopping by. I'm not going to worry about him because he's going to need a favor one day, and I'm sorry, I'm busy right now. I don't have time. But anyway, thanks for stopping by, and I really enjoyed talking to you. It's nice to know there's a few Canadians that's got some sense. Because as a general rule, you surrounded by crazy ass people up there. Thank God I live in the South where there's a lot of Republicans, and they might be drunk rednecks, but at least they got some damn sense. Well, I don't know. Sometimes the way they shoot their guns off, I worry about them. I'm surprised they still got 10 fingers at 30 years old. I worry about them. But anyway, it's getting about time for me to end this live stream too. But check out some of my videos if you like. Subscribe, that way you'll know whenever I do a live stream, because I really enjoyed talking to you, because it's nice to meet some people from Canada that's got good sense. Because I don't think there's a whole lot of you up there, and you need to be having youngins left and right. That way you can repopulate it with some good genes. But to anyone else that might be on there, because I'm showing 4 in the chat, and it's probably not going to tell me that there's anybody in the chat but me and you. I will say good night to everyone, and I'm going to end this now. And whoever left their devices on, somebody just joined. I'll wait around for another minute, see who this is. But Ontario, it was good talking with you. And please, by all means, feel free to come back in anytime. I have to admit, I have really enjoyed talking to you. Oh, they popped out. So I reckon it's live stream overtime. All right, you have a good one, buddy. Maybe that snow will melt before too much longer. And we'll talk to you later. Oh, see, we got 6 in now and 5. If somebody wants to talk for a few minutes, I'll hang around and we'll talk. Because it's about bed 30 for me. So after this, I'm probably gonna call it a night unless somebody wants to chat for a little while. Wonder where my trolls are from last night. Oh well, I guess whoever it was decided they didn't want to stay and talk, so might as well go ahead and end this. Good night, everybody. Thanks for stopping in.